live from outside of Sprouts. I say outside of Sprouts because just a couple of minutes ago I slipped in there to try to find Constance so she could say good morning, and I walked all around with my little camera on. If any of you caught it live, I deleted it because I couldn't find her in there, and it's not that big, but obviously she was leaning down or something in the vitamin department. But anyway, I'm happy to say I'm in my own car finally, and it's driving well with its new clutch and tune up and everything. It still leaks, and we're going to have to get the leaks patched and all sorts of other things. But at least I'm mobile again. So I thank everyone for your good wishes during my period of being stranded. And so here we are again. I'm going to try to set myself up here. We've just been to the Sacramento Natural Food Co-op, and I'm wearing a glove because I kind of ripped my hand open while trying to open the side door of the car. Anyway, does it make it better? Anyway, we're on I guess it's our fourth installment. We're beginning the chapter 3 of Across the Gulf, Crowley's fanciful remembrances of his life as Ankh-f-n-Khonsu, the priest of the princes, the star of the stele, at least the human star of the stele of revealing. And it's a weird tale, as I've mentioned in the last few episodes here. But let's see, how old is he now? He's in his teens now, and he's being groomed as a priestess, the priestess of the Veiled One. And it's for some curious reason that he was chosen as such, or this is part of his training anyway. It was the equinox of spring, and all my life stirred in me. They led me down cool colonnades of mighty stone clad in robes of white broidered with silk, and with a veil of fine gold fastened with rubies. They gave me not the uraeus crown, nor any nemes, nor the apept crown, but bound my forehead with a simple fillet of green leaves, vervain, and mandrake, and certain deadly herbs of which it is not fitting to speak. Now the priests of the Veiled Ones were sore perplexed, for that never before had any boy been chosen priestess. For before the vows may be administered, the proofs of virginity are sought. And as it seemed, this part of the ritual must be suppressed or glossed over. Then said the high priest, "Let it be that we examine the first woman that he shall touch with his hand, and she shall suffice." Now, when I heard this, I thought to test the god. And spying in the crowd, I beheld in loose robes with flushed face and wanton eyes a certain courtesan well known in the city, and I touched her. Then those of the priests that hated me were glad, for they wished to reject me. And taking aside into the hall of trial that woman, they made inquiry. Then with robes rent they came running forth, crying out against the Veiled One, for they found her perfect in virginity. And so was she even unto her death, as later appeared. But the Veiled One was wroth with them because of this, and appeared in her glittering veil upon the steps of her temple. Now the Veiled One is this supreme goddess, very mysterious. And he's being raised as the priestess of the Veiled One. There she stood and called them one by one, and she lifted but the eyepiece of her veil and looked into their eyes, and dead they fell before her, as if smitten by lightning. But those priests who were friendly to me and loyal to the goddess took that virgin courtesan and led her in triumph through the city, veiled and crowned as befitting. Now after some days, he that guarded the sacred goat of Khem died, and they appointed her in his place. Now, we might look at this sacred goat of Khem. Khem means Egypt. But the city of Mendes also had mysterious rites, literally mysterious rites, mysteries of Mendes, sort of like a magical fraternal order. And they worshipped a goat, and that was the goat of Mendes. Now after some days he that guarded the sacred goat of Khem died, and they appointed her in his place. And she was the first woman that was thus honored since the days of the evil queen in the 18th dynasty. Of her that wearied of men at an age when other women have not known them, that gave herself to the gods and beasts. But now they took me to a pool of liquid silver, so that they called it. I suppose it was quicksilver, for I remember that it was very difficult to immerse me, which is beneath the feet of the Veiled One. That was an awkward sentence to hear when read, but when you read it, it makes better sense. So I'll do that again. But now they took me to a pool of liquid silver, or so they called it. I suppose it was quicksilver, for I remember it was difficult to immerse me. Which is beneath the feet of the Veiled One, so the sentence read. Now they took me to a pool of liquid silver, which is beneath the feet of the Veiled One. Okay. For this is the secret of the oracle. Standing far off, the priest beholds the reflection of her in the mirror, seeing her lips that move under the veil. And this he interprets to the seeker after truth. It's an oracle. Thus the priest reads wrongly the silence of the goddess, and the seeker understands ill the speech of the priest. Then come forth fools, saying, "The goddess has lied," and in their folly they die. While therefore they held me beneath the surface of the pool, the high priestess took the vows on my behalf, saying, "I swear by the orb of the moon, I swear by the circuit of the stars, I swear by the veil and by the face behind the veil, I swear by the light invisible and by the visible darkness. On behalf of this virgin that is buried in thy water, I live in purity and service, to love in beauty and truth, to guard the veil from the profane, to die before the veil. And then came the awful penalty of failure. I dare not recall half of it, yet in it were these words: "Let her be torn by the phallus of Set, and let her bowels be devoured by Apep, and let her be prostituted to the lust of Bez, and let her face be eaten by the god." It is not good to write his name. Then they loosed me, and I lay smiling in the pool, and they lifted me up and brought me to the feet of the goddess, so that I might kiss them. And as I kissed them, such a thrill ran through me that I thought myself wrapped away into the heaven of Amun, or even Asi, when Hur and Hurpakrat, cleaving to her womb, sprang armed to life. Then they stripped me of my robes and lashed me with fine twigs of virgin hazel until my blood ran from me into the pool. But the surface of the silver swallowed up my blood by some mysterious energy, and they took this to be a sign of acceptance. So then they clothed me in the right robes of a priestess of the Veiled One, and they put a silver sistrum in mine hand, and bade me perform the ceremony of adoration. This I did, and the veil of the goddess glittered in the darkness, for night had fallen by this. It glittered with a strange, starry light. Thereby it was known that I was indeed chosen aright. So last of all they took me to the banqueting house and set me on the high throne. One by one the priests came by and kissed my lips. One by one the priestesses came by and gave me the secret clasp of hands that hath hidden virtue. And the banquet waxed merry, for all the food was magically prepared. Each beast that they slew was virgin. Every plant they plucked had been grown and tended by virgins in the garden of the temple. Also the wine was spring water only, but so consecrated by holy priestesses that one glass was more intoxicating than a whole skin of common wine. Yet this intoxication was a pure delight, an enthusiasm wholly divine, and it gave strength, and did away with sleep, and left no sorrow. Last, as the first grey glow of Hrumaku paled the deep indigo of the night, they crowned and clothed me with white lotus flowers, and took me joyously back to the temple, there to celebrate the matin ritual of awakening the Veiled One. Thus, and not otherwise, I became priestess of that holy goddess, and for a little while my life passed calm as the unruffled mirror itself. It was from the Veiled One herself that came the breath of change. In the 7th equinox after my initiation into her mystery, the high priestess was found to fail. At her invocation the veil no longer glittered as it was wont. For this they deemed her impure, and resorted to many ceremonies, but without avail. At last, in despair, she went to the temple of Set, and gave herself as a victim to that dreadful god. Now all men were much disturbed at this, and it was not known at all of them what they should do. Now it must be remembered that the ceremonies are always performed by a single priestess alone before the goddess, save only the initiations. The others also found themselves rejected of her. When they learnt of the terrible end of the high priestess, they became fearful. Some few indeed concealed their failure from the priests. But always within a day and a night they were found torn asunder in the outer courts, so that it seemed the lesser evil to speak the truth. Moreover, the affair had become a public scandal, for the goddess plagued the people with famine and with a terrible and foul disease. But as for me, I wot not what to do. For to me always the veil glittered, and that brighter than the ordinary. Yet I said nothing, but went about drooping and sorrowful, as if I were as unfortunate as they. For I would not seem to boast of the favor of the goddess. Then they sent to the old Magus in the well, and he laughed outright at their beards and would say no word. Also they sent to the sacred goat of Khem, and his priestess would but answer, I, and such as I, may be favored of her, which they took for ribaldry and mocking. A third time they sent to the temple of Thoth, the ibis god of wisdom, and Thoth answered them by his riddle, or this riddle. On how many legs doth mine ibis stand? And they understood him not. But the old high priest determined to solve the mystery, though he paid forfeit with his life. So, concealing himself in the temple, he watched in the pool for the reflection of the glittering veil, while one by one we performed the adorations, and behind him and without stood the priests, watching him to make a sign. This we knew not. But when it fell to me, the last, to adore the veiled one, behold, the veil glittered, and the old priest threw up his arms to signal that which had occurred. And the flash of an eye pierced the veil, and he fell from his place dead upon the priests without. They buried him with much honor, for that he had given his life for the people and for the temple to bring back the favor of the veiled one. Then came they all very humbly unto me, the child, and besought me to interpret the will of the goddess. And her will was that I alone should serve her day and night. Then they gave unto me to drink of the cup of torment. And this is its virtue, that if one should speak falsely, invoking the name of the goddess, he shall burn in hell visibly before all men for 1,000 years, and that flame shall never be put out. There is such a one in her temple in Memphis, for I saw it with these eyes. There he burns and writhes and shrieks on the cold marble floor, and there he shall burn till his time expire, and he sink to that more dreadful hell below the west. But I drank thereof, and the celestial dew stood shining on my skin, and the coolness ineffable thrilled through me, whereat they all rejoiced, and obeyed the voice of the goddess that I had declared unto them. Now then, I was always alone with that veiled one, and I must enter most fully into that secret period of my life, for despite its ending, which hath put many a wise man to shame, it was to me even as an eternity of rapture, of striving and of attainment beyond that which most mortals, and they initiates even, call divine. Now first let it be understood what is the ritual of adoration of Our Lady the Veiled One. First, the priestess performs a mystical dance, by which all beings whatsoever, be they gods or demons, are banished, so that the place may be pure. Next, in another dance, even more secret and sublime, the presence of the goddess is invoked into her image. Next, the priestess goes a certain journey, passing the shrines of many great and terrible of the lords of Chem, and saluting them. At last she assumes the very self of the goddess. And if this be duly done, the veil glittereth, responsive. Therefore, if the veil glittereth not, one may know that in some way the priestess hath failed to identify herself with her. Thus, an impurity in the thought of the priestess must cause her to fail, for the goddess is utterly pure. Yet the task is always difficult, for with the other gods one knoweth the appearance of their images, and steadily contemplating these can easily attain to their imitation, and so to their comprehension, and to the unity of consciousness with them. But with our Veiled One, none who hath seen her face hath lived long enough to say one word or call one cry. So then, it was of vital urgency to me to keep in perfect sympathy with that pure soul, so calm, so strong. With what terror, then, did I regard myself when looking into my own soul? I saw no longer that perfect stillness. Strange was it, even if one should see a lake stirred by a wind that one did not feel upon the cheeks and brow. Trembling and ashamed, I went to the vesper adoration. I knew myself troubled, irritated by I knew what not. And in spite of all my efforts, this persisted even to the supreme moment of my assumption of her Godhead. And then, oh, but the veil glittered as never yet. Yea, more, it shot out sparks of scintillating fire, silvery rose, a shower of flame and perfume. Then was I exceedingly amazed because of this, and made a vigil before her all the nights, seeking a word. And that word came not. Now of what further befell, I will write anon. And unless you are completely bored by this tale, tomorrow I hope to read you chapter 4 in this installment of the adventures of Ankh-f-n-Khonsu across the veil. Anyway, that's it for today. I hope Constance is in there somewhere. I couldn't find her. But anyway, until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself. Be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law. Love under will.